If I had to start over completely from scratch in real estate and entrepreneurship, this is the exact 3-step process that I would use. And how can I be so confident? Well, because it's already what I did before a year ago to get to where I am today. And it's the same thing that I would continue to do because I know it works. So my goal for this video is to help you unlock your journey and get past the analysis paralysis and figure out what you can be doing today to get to that next step, whatever it may be. Because remember this, the only thing worse than building a failed business is not building a business at all. And that's what I see a lot of you guys talking about, and some people even doing, is just continuing to talk about what they want to do and never actually do it. So this video is going to be the end of that. We're going to figure out where you are right now, what you can be doing with the resources you already have. We're not talking about 6 months from now. We're not talking about last month. We're talking about right now, because I want to make sure that we can figure out the best path forward for you. So let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Ryan, and this YouTube channel is my attempt at documenting all of my mistakes and lessons that I'm learning in entrepreneurship, being that I'm pretty new to this thing, so that hopefully you can get a lot of the benefits without making as many mistakes. So today we're going to be talking specifically to you guys that are feeling stuck, right? Which is a very common feeling to have. Personally, I still get this feeling all the time. But it's not about getting the feeling, it's about overcoming it and figuring out what the next best thing is that you can be doing so that you don't sit there and sulk and feel bad for yourself. So today we're going to be talking about what I would call the 3-lever process, which is the 3 different levers that you can look at right now today to figure out what you need to be doing. And so if you're watching this video, I would highly recommend that you go ahead and grab a notebook and a pen, something to write with, so that you can actually do this with me, because I think it's a really important lesson to be able to go through right now. So there's 3 main levers we're going to be talking about today. The first one is going to be money. Everybody loves talking about money. Number 2 is experience. We'll talk more about what that means. And then the third one is going to be your time. All right? So each one of you guys that's watching this video is going to have different allocations of these 3 things, right? Some of you guys might be filthy rich, have no time. Some of you guys might have all the time in the world, ain't got any money, right? So everybody's in a different thing. But what I want to talk about today is how I used this system in my life to be able to overcome these things. And so first, I want to start with just some basic examples of what I mean when I talk about these things. So money. Obviously, money is money, right? Money is a simple one. What's the type of person that I would say would have money at the top of this list? That's going to be people that obviously have a lot of passive income or a lot of income that they're not using, maybe a lot of investments, big 401k accounts, things like that you're probably not utilizing to the best of their ability. Those are people with a lot of money. Experience, specifically in real estate and business, doesn't necessarily have to mean that you have your own business, right? There's plenty of you guys watching this video that are just getting started in real estate, but maybe you have a background as a loan officer or as an agent or something like that. And so you have experience in the field, right? You know way more than I did when I was getting started. That's for dang sure. And time. Time's an easy one. Time is for you people that maybe just quit your job or do real estate full time and you kind of can play with whatever. You're an entrepreneur. Maybe you have a job that's only a couple days a week or is part-time or you're in college. Whatever the case may be, time is another big one. And so what I want to be doing today is talking about how you can look at the organization of these 3 things to determine what the heck is going on. All right? So the organization of these 3 things is very important in determining what your next best step can be. Okay? If you're a person that has sent me DMs and messages and questions saying, hey, I'm new, I don't really know where to get started. Should I get into a mentorship? Should I get into lending? Should I become an agent? Whatever it is that you're trying to figure out, I think that this is going to be really effective in helping you get there. So what I want to do to start is erase these 3 things, and I want to have everybody that's watching this video, whether you're on your phone or a notebook or whatever, write those 3 things down in order of how they appear in your life. So what do you have the most of as number 1? What do you have the least of as number 3? And it can depend, right? You could have the most money and only have $5,000, or you could have the most money and have $1 million. I don't care, all right? It doesn't matter what exact scenario you're in. All that matters is that you rank these things, okay? And so to start, I'm going to give you a ranking of what I had when I started. So when I was getting started, honestly, I didn't have a lot of any of these 3 things. You're probably feeling that too, because I think I was a pretty classic, like hadn't really done real estate before, had just gotten my job, was just kind of starting to save up money, so pretty in between, right? And so what I determined was that I did actually have the most time, and there was a couple reasons for that. For me, specifically, I had a job that was an hour away. Yes, I drove an hour to and from work every single day. And so with that, I decided that time was actually my highest allocation because I had a time when I was driving to and from work every day to listen to podcasts, make phone calls, whatever stuff while driving. And then also, obviously, morning and night, lunch breaks, stuff like that. You find time when you really want to. So time is at the top of the list for me. Did I have a lot of time? No, I worked a full-time job, but I had more time than anything else. Next one for me was money. If you know me well, you probably know that I am a very frugal person that is somewhat ridiculous sometimes with that stuff. But the result of that is that I had a decent amount of money saved up just from odd jobs in college and whatever random garbage was going on. And so I didn't have a lot of money, but I had some money. I had more time than money. And then down here at the bottom was experience, right? Now, I did have some experience investing. I've been kind of dabbling, so to speak, with investing my whole life, whether it's stocks or stock options. Don't gamble, folks. So I had a little bit of experience and stuff, but not a lot of experience. I was just getting into real estate, didn't own any rentals. Nobody in my family owns rentals, so pretty low on the totem pole, right? So this was my ranking when I got started. Now, when I looked at this ranking, what I wanted to figure out was, okay, how can I utilize what I've just laid out for you to figure out what the best thing to do was? So let's look at it this way. Let's focus just on the top one. So whatever your highest priority. So for me, my highest priority was time, right? So things that you can do with a lot of time is get on the phone, right? Knock doors. For those of you that don't know what that means, quite literally, it's going out, knocking doors of distressed properties, pulling lists for foreclosures, things like that. Just knocking on their door and having a face-to-face conversation, right? These are what you would kind of call like grueling activities, right? They take a lot of time. They're not that enjoyable. Making a lot of like DMs and cold outreach. Is this stuff fun? No. Why? Well, that stuff takes a lot of time. You get a lot of rejection. It's not that great, right? You don't see Steve Jobs out there doing this stuff, right? So it's not necessarily what you want to be doing, but if you got time, this is what you can be doing, right? And so for me, this is what I started with. I said, okay, I have time as my top allocation, so I'm going to figure out things that take a lot of time but are still effective. Now, if you have a bunch of time and you're just sitting there scrolling on your phone, you're not getting anywhere. Hopefully you found this video while you're scrolling on your phone and now we're actually going to be able to get you somewhere. So you got to figure out something that's actually effective with your time. But if you look at these things, like door knocking is way up there for effectiveness. Is it a grind? Absolutely. But everybody I know that knocks doors makes some serious cash in the long run if they stick with it and grind on those follow-ups. So door knocking, making those phone calls, doing cold outreach, these are grind activities, but you have to get them done. And so I had a lot of time, so I was focusing on these things. I was making phone calls, knocking on doors, doing the things that I had time to do. Now, on the side, I had a little bit of money saved up, and so I wanted to figure out, what am I supposed to do with this money? Because up until this point, when I got into real estate, I was just investing my money in stocks, which is fine. It's a great thing to do. Usually, in my opinion, that's kind of reserved for the most part for people that just want the passive investment, right? They don't really know what they're doing. They throw it in a mutual fund or throw it in Apple stock or whatever. I've made plenty of money that way, so it's still a great option. But now I wanted to do more active stuff with my money. So my question was, what the heck could I do with my money? And what I decided I was going to end up doing was starting to just do some small lending transactions to get an idea of what it looks like to be a lender. And so that's what I was doing with my money. And then experience, right? This is the big one. Now, this is a perfect example here because you see time at the top and experience at the bottom. So what does this mean? It means that you can take all of your time to level up your experience. Very important. Experience should not stay at the bottom, right? You should be utilizing these things to level up the experience so that you can continue to make improvements. And this list should be shifting all over the place because you're constantly making these changes and figuring out what's going on. So this was me, right? This was me when I got started. Now, here's the crazy thing. You might be watching this and you're like, oh, 3 months from now, I'm going to quit my job, or this is going to change, or I'm going to get a paycheck from something, or whatever it might be. I don't care. Respectfully, I don't care that your situation is going to change 3 months from now, because guess what? When your situation changes, change this crap. That's all you got to do. Change it around when things change. So this was me when I got started. It wasn't me the whole time, right? Because as I kept going, what happened? Well, my money kind of stayed the same and went down here, and my experience moved up. Why? Well, we got our first Airbnb. We learned how to manage tenants a little bit, learned how to run a rental, collect some income from that. Really cool. I sat in my car every day driving to and from work and made phone calls and listened to other phone calls and podcasts and all that stuff. So my experience went up. Awesome. Now I got a lot of time, but I got some more experience. So maybe I'll try and get into something. So what did I do? Well, instead of continuing to just make kind of rogue phone calls and trying to get a wholesale deal, which was my original start, I started getting into multifamily. I wanted to get into multifamily and get into the big stuff. I was like, I've got time on my side. Let's get into the big stuff. Let's see what this stuff is like. And I spent 3 months doing that, right? I was calling brokers on my drive to and from work. I was calling them on my lunch break, whatever. And I was utilizing the experience that I had built up and utilizing the time that I had to work on something new. But then something changed again for me. What changed? Well, I started to hate my job. My job started to suck. And I was like, all right, well, I had all this time and I was collecting the money from my job. Great. All of a sudden, I now can't wait 5 years or whatever the usual timeline is to kind of get going with multifamily. I need money now. I need money to replace my income. So what do you think happened? Well, all this stuff shifted around again because my money now became even lower. My experience had to go up and my time had to be utilized differently, right? So this is just an example for me. This is an example of how constantly things were changing for me and I jumped from one thing to another. So don't think that you're going to come up with some perfect game plan right now and all of a sudden, boom, you're going to have it all figured out, right? If you're just getting started, you don't have it all figured out because I've been doing this for a little bit and I certainly don't have it figured out. And I know people that have been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years and they still don't have it figured out. So that's okay. But you can still use this framework. So that's me. That's your example that I want to get rid of now because nobody really cares about me. Anyway, we want to talk about you. So let's make this about you. Hopefully everybody watching this video has now written down in order those 3 things. What are they? Money, experience, and time. You've written down the order of those 3 things. Now, I've given you a couple examples of how those things can move around. And so let's just kind of line them up here. So if you have time at the top, if you have money at the top, and if you have experience at the top. We're going to start there. Right? So I already talked about this one. If you have a lot of time, if you're somebody that's got a job that's not that demanding, maybe you work a remote job and you say you work 40 hours, but you really only work 20, you know who you are, you got some time on your hands. Or maybe you just made the plunge to go full-time into real estate, you had some reserves, something like that. You've got the time rocking. You can make phone calls, right? You can make phone calls, you can door knock. And what I'll add into this is you can kind of go for the long-term vision, right? You can look for these long-term opportunities like I was with multifamily where it takes a while, right? It takes a while to be successful in multifamily, but that's okay because you've got a long-term vision. You can see ahead and you can say, I don't need money to come in next week. I don't need money to come in next month. Maybe I don't need money to come in this year. I just want to work on something that I enjoy, that's fruitful, that's exciting. Boom. Long-term vision. These are things that you can utilize when you have a lot of time. And specifically, most people that have a lot of time, it's going to be hitting up the phones and door knocking. All right, so what am I really getting at here when I'm talking about people with a lot of time? You're in a great spot if you have a bunch of time because you can do all these things to build these guys up. And if you have time, that's what you should be doing, right? Nobody just wants to have a bunch of time. Like, what are you going to do with that time? Well, you're going to start doing these things. So you can build these guys up. You've got the time to think. You've got the time to put in some work that not everybody has to take advantage. Now, let's jump to the next one. If you're somebody that has a whole bunch of money, right? There's kind of 2 sides of the equation here that I've seen for people that have money. There's the side where you have a bunch of money, but you don't really have any idea what you're doing, right? Which would be money up, experience down. Or you might have a little bit of both of these guys, and money's at the top of the ring. Let's talk about both of those. So when the money's at the top, there's 2 things that I see people doing. They're private money lending, or they're being a private money partner, okay? Now, private money lenders, typically, not always, but typically, private money lenders that are lending out their money for, let's say, 8 to 12% annual returns, better than they're getting in the stock market because it's backed by real estate, those people are going to be people that have less experience, right? They're newer to real estate, or maybe they don't do real estate at all, right? A lot of our best private money lenders are people that are doctors or whatever and have these jobs that take up all of their time, right? Time's at the bottom for them, money's at the top. So they lend that money out, they make money on their money while they're going out and making more money. not a bad life. So that's a private money lender. Now, a private money partner can be really one of two things. Either one, you could just be the same thing, right? No knowledge, but you're just lending the money and somebody's willing to split equity with you. That absolutely happens. The other one is if you're a private money partner, you might be lending the money and have experience, right? So you might be able to, let's say on a multifamily deal, you could be a key principal on a deal if you have experience, or operating, let's say, a sober living house or an Airbnb. If you have experience, you can bring the money and do some operations or whatever and be more of a partner, get some equity, that kind of thing. So that's the two sides with money. Is essentially if you have money, you're investing it, you're lending it, you're building businesses. Obviously, if you have money, you're in the driver's seat, right? Most everybody here is looking to figure out ways to build up more money. Once you have that money, what are you going to do with it? Well, you're going to try and make more money with it, right? And what we're going to see, the contrast here is if you have a lot of money, then you don't have to have a lot of time because you don't have to do these activities. Why? Well, you can pay somebody to make phone calls for you if you want. You can pay somebody to go door knock. You can pay somebody to go do that stuff because you got money. So that's somebody that has money at the top, experience at the top. This one can go a lot of different ways. It really depends on what your experience is. Again, whether you have experience in the real estate world, the business world, or something in between. When you have a lot of experience, what are you doing? Well, experience brings leverage. Very important. This has been my experience with people that have experience, is that they have leverage. Why? Because if somebody has experience, for example, the other day I had a plumber come over to our house. Our sink wasn't working. I tried everything I could think of. I couldn't figure out how to get the dang thing to drain, right? So we have a plumber come over. The plumber takes 2 seconds. He knows exactly what the problem is. He fixes it in another 30 seconds. Boom, problem solved. I paid him a very hefty sum of money for 5 minutes worth of work, and he was on his way. Why did he get paid that much money? Well, it wasn't because he spent a whole bunch of time. It had nothing to do with money. He just had leverage. He had the experience. He knew something I didn't, and he was able to leverage that to his advantage. That's how those jobs work. That's how the trades and professions and being a professional at anything works, right? It's not that you have to do something for a long time, right? When you start utilizing leverage, you're not necessarily worried about spending a long time doing something. You're just doing it correctly. You're knowing the answer to the problem, right? Think about consultants or anything like that. Think about how much money somebody's willing to pay those people for their expertise. And so if you're somebody with experience, you can leverage that experience to go get deals, to go start businesses, to go to work with other people that might have time or might have money or a little bit of both, but they don't have experience. That's where you come in. That's where you can leverage experience. So if you're somebody that's watching this video with experience, figure out how to leverage your experience with these other people over here to build something great. So that's our 3 things. We've got time, money, and experience. You guys are organizing those however you want. And I'm going to go through a few more scenarios here just on kind of breaking down in more detail what I just talked about, which is the different orders, like I said, right? So there's 6 combinations you can have. So you can do time, money, experience. This is option number 1. By the way, every single one of you guys is going to fall into one of these. Time, experience, money. Number 2, experience, time, money. Bang, bang. Let's go with some. We're going to fast forward this real quick while I write these down. Okay, so if you are doing this exercise with me, you fall into one of these 6 categories, right? So take a minute, look at it, figure out which one is you, and then I'll do a quick run through of all of these things. So I've talked about a lot of these. Now I just want to break it down visually so you can see what I'm talking about. First, you got time, money, experience, right? That means you don't have expertise. You got a lot of time, you got a little bit of money. This was me. This was where I started. We talked about this one at the beginning. What did I do? I spent that time to gain expertise, and in the meantime, I lent out some money, right? Boom. That'll help you get on the right track. Time, experience, money. You're probably not going to be lending any money right now. You're going to be utilizing your time to build more experience, and you're going to utilize those things to make money. You got experience. You got a little bit of time. You don't have much money. Leverage. Experience at the top is leverage, leverage, leverage. And you can figure out how to leverage those things best because you got time. Boom. Experience, money, time. Again, you're going to be leveraging, but this time you can be leveraging with money. So you have experience, which means you can figure out the best places to use that money to make the highest return. Money at the top, we already talked about this. If you've got money and time, then you can probably raise your expertise until you can become a partner. But in the meantime, this one, you're probably just going to be doing more like passive lending, low key. And if you got money and experience and less time, you don't even need any dang time if you got money and experience, because that means you're going to be doing lending, you're going to be a partner, you're going to be grabbing equity in businesses and deals and all that good stuff, and you're going to be chilling. So these are the 6 different things that you can do. And I wanted to do all of this for you guys to make sure that I was giving a very, very simple concept that's easy to grasp that you can look at right now. I know I already said it. I want to say it again. This is not for what you're going to be doing 6 months from now. This is not for what your life looks like a month from now. This is figuring out what your life looks like right now. And you can write this stuff down and then you can change it later on. Like I said, I've done it many, many times. So you can change it. No problem. It's all good. But we want to focus on you right now because, again, if you are somebody that's come to me and said you don't know what to do, you can figure out what to do, or you can get on the right track for figuring out what to do by just analyzing your situation. And a lot of people don't even take the time to figure out what situation they're in. So how the heck are you ever going to figure this stuff out, right? Now, another concept that I'll bring up that you guys can go look at is a concept that Pace talks about all the time, which is your avatar. If you go on YouTube and you look up the Avatar series with Pace, you'll find plenty of videos. This breaks down the intangible of all those things I just talked about. And I think this is really important too. Whether or not you have time at the top, money at the top, expertise at the top, it doesn't matter, because one of the most important things that I can't quantify for you on this board is what you desire and what you actually enjoy. And that is incredibly important, right? If you have all the time in the world, but you don't enjoy doing those things, then the question becomes, is it getting you closer to your goal? And I would argue, if you're somebody with a lot of time that has to go door knock and make phone calls, suck it up, because nobody enjoys that crap. You do it for a reason. You do it to gain experience. You do it to get to the next level. But you absolutely should still be evaluating what you enjoy. What's another example? Let me talk about myself, because as I always say, that's the only thing I'm a true expert in. Personally, after going through that list over and over again, I ended up wholesaling, right? A lot of you guys know that. You've probably seen my wholesale videos. I have a lot to share about wholesale because we did a lot of deals successfully and learned a whole bunch. So why did I quit wholesaling? Because it didn't fit in with my goal. Did I make good money? Absolutely. But my goal wasn't money, right? And if my goal wasn't money and the only thing I was getting out of wholesale, or the main thing I was getting out of wholesale, was money, maybe it doesn't make sense for me. And eventually, it took some push, some help from other people kind of looking at my life and talking to me about it. But eventually I realized, oh yeah, I don't want this money more than I want these other things that I want to do. And so instead of wholesaling, now I get to do the things I enjoy more. An incredible, incredible freedom to be able to do that. I'm so grateful for those things, because I was able to utilize this strategy that we've been talking about to gain time freedom, so that now I can do what I want with my time to get to the next step and get to what I desire to do. Amazing. So that's my example for you on adding in that intangible, right? What you actually want, what you desire, what fit in for you. But there are a lot of factual things that you can be doing right now to get yourself on the right track. And I want to continue to help you guys figure that out, because if you haven't already noticed, I'm still jumping around a little bit, right? I'm trying out the waters. I changed like 4, 5, 6 times what I was doing before I found traction with making money, and that was in wholesale. And now I've changed again, even though I was making money doing that. So I'm pretty all over the place. If you haven't picked up on it, like, I'm still new to this stuff. I'm still figuring this stuff out. I'm going to be learning stuff every single day that's new to me. Maybe I'll change my mind about this stuff. And if I do, I'll make another video about it, because that's all I'm doing. I'm here to document. I'm here to help you guys in any way that I can. So I want to hear from you. If this video was helpful, if you have any other questions, if you still feel stuck and you actually took the time to talk about this stuff, leave me a comment down below so I can see what the heck is going on, see if I can be helpful, because I want to point you in the right direction. And keep in mind, you're not going to figure it out on your first try. This is just something that you can utilize to get started. And that's all that really matters. All that matters is that you take that first step, you figure it out. If I look at my life, if I look back on my life, for example, in college, I was doing an internship every summer, right? When I was doing these internships, all I wanted was to do an internship and be like, oh my gosh, this is my dream job. I found it. This is my dream job. I'm going to keep this job. There were so many kids I knew that got an internship and were like, that company was amazing, treated me so well, I want to do this for the rest of my life. They went and worked for them after college, blah, blah, blah. I didn't have that. What happened to me? Every summer, I got an internship at a different company. And at the end of every summer, I came home and said, yeah, I hated that job. I hated that company. So for me, what was I doing? I wasn't finding the thing that I really wanted to do. I was just finding all the things that I definitely didn't want to do. And that's still progress, right? You've got a way higher percent chance of finding things you don't want to do than finding the things you do. But you got to start. You just get started, and you're going to figure it out if you get started and make those mistakes over and over enough times until you get there. And like my example, I figured out after a while, it turns out the reason I didn't like any of those jobs is because I didn't like jobs at all. Who would have thought? So here I am. Now I don't even have a job, right? So it's crazy how that stuff works out, but the process of elimination is powerful. So utilize that process of elimination. Get started right now. Figure out which one of these you are. Leave a comment down below on what your order looks like so that I can check it out and try and point you in the right direction if I haven't already been effective in doing so. But I appreciate you guys all hanging out for this whole thing. I hope this was helpful. This was one of my most requested questions that I've gotten. So I hope it was able to have a positive impact on you. I'll see you guys again next time. Peace.